The Ohio River, an impassable barrier, crippled our nation's growth between the North and the South. Before 1867, there was no means of transportation across this river other than boats or ferries. The need for a sturdy bridge called forth the genius of John Augustus Roebling, who mastered the innovative use of steel cables so a bridge could support its own weight, creating a suspension bridge. The immediate impact of this incredible structure was a simpler way for crossing the Ohio River. This changed the building of bridges, making it possible to construct longer bridges over wider bodies of water. John Augustus Roebling was born on June 12, 1806 in Germany. While studying engineering in Berlin, he attended the lectures of George Hegel, who introduced Roebling to America. After receiving his civil engineering degree, Roebling packed his bags and set sail for the West on May 2, 1831, landing in Philadelphia. Roebling opened up a wire factory in Trenton, Pennsylvania. With the wires, which he turned into cables, he was able to construct his first bridge in 1844, the Allegheny Aqueduct Bridge. By 1850, Roebling had built 4 suspension bridges, 2 in Pittsburgh and 2 in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania. The Ohio River divided 2 radically different parts of the nation, the North and the South. In the South, which permitted slavery, the biggest industry was agriculture. In the North, where slavery was illegal, the biggest industry was based on machinery. The North traded tools to the South. In return, the South traded crops. The main obstacle to that essential trading was the Ohio River. In 1840, boats were not as reliable as a bridge to cross a river. It also took longer to load and unload cargo from boats to wagons than to just keep driving the wagon across the bridge. There were large waiting times between ferries, whereas a bridge would always be open to traffic. Besides that, the river flooded in Cincinnati every few years. These floods made navigation difficult. For all these reasons, in the 1840s, people in Cincinnati and northern Kentucky were interested in building a bridge over the Ohio River. There were 2 architects eager to design this bridge, John Augustus Roebling and Charles Ellet. Ellet suggested that the bridge should not be built in Cincinnati, but in either Louisville, Maysville, Marietta, or Wheeling. Roebling disagreed, and in 1845, he submitted a design for a bridge between Cincinnati, Ohio, and Covington, Kentucky. Hamilton County Surveyor James Cooper rejected Roebling's plan on the basis that the land proposed for the supporting towers was inadequate to support the bridge, but Roebling was not dissuaded. However, the surveyor was not the only one who criticized Roebling's bridge proposal. Another concern was that the bridge would restrict passage of the boats in the river. One critic said,
"This I consider an error, for Mr. Roebling's floods of 45 feet are of so common occurrence that I should say, once at least in every 5 years, we have 50 feet, and 45 is a freshet of common occurrence."
The objector worried about whether boats would be able to pass under the bridge during a time of flooding. Roebling planned to solve that problem by building the span of the bridge 121 feet above the river floor. Roebling's plan called for a wire suspension bridge constructed with 1 1/4-inch wires. Each 1/4-inch wire would be wrapped with 1,179 other 1/4-inch wires to make one thick cable over a foot in diameter.
Spun is the term that they use. So it's actually one continuous wire that goes from anchor to anchor and then goes back across, and then those are wrapped with a smaller wire.
This innovative technique changed the way suspension bridges would be constructed for years to come. In May of 1846, the Covington and Cincinnati Bridge Company asked Roebling to survey the region for a bridge to connect Cincinnati and northern Kentucky. In 1849, Roebling's plan was finally accepted, and he signed an agreement with the Covington and Cincinnati Bridge Company. But there was one strange condition. To satisfy the Cincinnati merchants' fear of losing trade to the south, the bridge could not be built in any direct line with the Cincinnati streets. Because of that rule, the bridge would not line up with any Covington streets either, since the streets on either side of the river were in alignment with each other. Despite that difficulty, they immediately commenced work on the bridge. A shortage of money slowed the building process in 1858. As a result, workers had to be paid in bonds for a year. The progress on the suspension bridge was steady until national problems intervened. When Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States in 1860, Carolina seceded from the Union and other states followed. On April 12, 1861, the Confederates attacked Fort Sumter. The Civil War began. That retarded the completion of this bridge between the North and the South, because neither the Confederates nor the Union one of the other army crossing the Ohio River. Also, building materials were not so available during the war, so bridge construction came to a stop. On April 9, 1865, the war ended and work on the suspension bridge resumed. On January 1, 1867, the bridge officially opened to the general public. On that first day, 46,000 people crossed the bridge. Over 100,000 people crossed the next day. To build this bridge over the Ohio River, Roebling used new innovative bridge building techniques, besides the use of cables. One unique feature that Roebling used consisted of cable stays. The stays are the diagonal cables coming from the top of each stone tower. These stays help reduce stress from the main cables in the road, transferring the weight to the two stone towers. Another feature which was added during the reconstruction in 1896 involved trusses. A truss bridge utilizes metal supports in a specific triangular pattern that spreads the weight of the bridge evenly. There are 2 points where 2 steel rods meet called nodes. These points allow road disfiguration by the spreading of the weight at the nodes. Roebling's creation, the suspension bridge, was privately owned and was a toll bridge. In 1955, it was purchased by the Commonwealth of Kentucky with free access to all. The bridge withstood anything Mother Nature threw at it. For example, it was the only bridge available to the public during the flood of 1937 for the 800 miles between Cairo, Illinois, where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi River, and Steubenville, Ohio. The bridge has remained standing for 143 years. In 1975, it was placed in the National Register of Historic Places. Currently, the suspension bridge is receiving a facelift, a new coat of blue paint. All of us in Cincinnati are suffering the impact of the temporary closing of this vital bridge. The Cincinnati-Covington Suspension Bridge remained the longest suspension bridge in the world for 16 years, and it firmly established John Roebling's reputation as an innovator. In 1869, he began to construct the Great Brooklyn Bridge, whose tremendous length and long open span were revolutionary, innovative, and for some people, unbelievable. Unfortunately, Roebling suffered a minor injury at the Brooklyn site. He contracted tetanus and died in 1869. His son, Washington Roebling, who had worked with his father on the Cincinnati Suspension Bridge, completed the famous Brooklyn Bridge. Though the masswork of the Cincinnati-Covington Bridge is not as remarkable today, it was the model for subsequent famous suspension bridges, such as the Golden Gate Bridge in California, the Tacoma Narrows in Washington State, and the Akashi Kaiko Bridge in Japan, now the largest bridge in the world today. John Roebling wanted to bring together the people of southern Ohio and northern Kentucky by his innovative suspension bridge. He clearly achieved that goal. An immediate impact was for the bridge to be properly called the Gateway to the South. This is added to Cincinnati's earlier title, the Gateway to the West. Roebling also said that a suspension bridge would allow the population of Cincinnati and its neighbors to flourish and increase. This positive change happened as predicted. Roebling's feat of creating a bridge over the Ohio River inspired others to build 4 additional bridges in Cincinnati in the next few years. 3 of these were railroad bridges, which made a positive impact on continued trade between the North and the South. This trading of products helped the growth of the area both economically and population. Living in Cincinnati, a river city, we know that bridges are an essential part of everyday life.
They needed to get from one point to another, and that bridge provided access in that era for the people of Covington and Cincinnati to be connected quicker and faster rather than getting on a ferry, or so it saved time. It provided direct access to the people on those 2 communities on 2 sides of the river.
The Ohio River is no longer a barrier between the North and the South. Thanks to the creative genius of John Augustus Roebling, the innovative suspension bridge has been a vital link between the people of Ohio and Kentucky for 150 years.